Awesome. Guten Morgen. Alles gut? Ja? Ich bin sehr gut. Sometimes I make the mistake of flying from Seattle, which is 9 hours, away in time zones, and it's a terrible idea to fly in the day before and then try and sleep and speak. But I flew in on Sunday, which means you're going to get a very excited Rand on stage. Very, very excited. I have yay for you getting in a day early, Rand. My Fitbit says that I slept 12 hours, so whoa. All right. The sad part is I have bad news. I have bad news in this presentation. But if you hang with me about halfway through, I will try and turn it around and give us some opportunities for hope in the future. So my slides, this is the German version of this presentation, so it includes some German market-specific data. The folks from SMX will make it available to all of you. You can find the US versions of the slide. I tweeted that out under the SMX München hashtag. Let's go back in time a little bit. Not too far, to 2009. 2009 to about 2016, there was like this period where if you attended an event like SMX, or many others in the field, if you read blog posts about how digital marketing was supposed to work, how SEO and content were working, you would see this sort of classic playbook. Virtually every session that was that SMX had, virtually every blog post out in our industry was about the same things, this particular playbook. And it went something like this, right? You go choose some high volume keywords for your SEO, you publish some good content for it, you take that and promote it on social media and RSS and through your email channels, right? Get it out to all the people. You grow your followers and your subscribers. Alexander, I love the way you're moving around with me. This flow is just magic. So we're just gonna change it up, right? And then you'd go and amplify that, and you'd earn links through that, and then you'd grow your follower count, and then you used ad platforms to capitalize on the success of your content marketing and grow your conversions, right? Get people to actually buy from you. So this classic playbook worked so well. I mean, in a lot of ways, this is how I built Moz. In a ton of ways, this is how so many businesses in the SEO field, I think this is how the SEO field came to prominence in a lot of ways, because this worked. If you did it well, it worked. And then somewhere around 2015, 2016, and we were definitely feeling it last year and this year, it stopped working quite as well. And I don't know exactly what that was, but you could see it in every part of this process, right? The keywords that we were choosing were sending less traffic. The content we were creating, even though it was good, it somehow wasn't good enough, not to get the rankings. The space had become so competitive. Every space was becoming so competitive. Links in social that used to do well and work weren't reaching the audiences they used to, and even when they weren't having the effect that they used to. People following us on these channels didn't see our stuff anymore, right? As Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram and all of these places, the reach, the average reach just kept declining. Influencers, right? The people who were supposed to help us amplify this content and get in front of people weren't providing the influence that we thought we could get from them. And the ad prices on these networks were growing at such a phenomenal pace that having any return on investment, especially in competitive sectors, was next to impossible. Just incredibly tough. So suddenly, this playbook that worked so well for so long is not. And that, I think, is for 4 core reasons. And that is what Sandra and I have termed the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I do have one request, which I should have asked for earlier. I don't know why I'm asking you. Can you bring me some water? No. Do you know if somebody back there could grab me some water? Yes. Oh, or you have one over here, maybe. Oh, look at that. Hiding behind the X. That's the key. Amazing. And you know that I have weak hands and cannot open my own German water bottles. That's excellent. Seriously, if you go to other countries, water bottles are way easier to open. Germany does a lot of things right, but I'm telling you. Okay, so let's talk about the first one. These social platforms that basically diminished a lot of the reach that we historically had available to us. So you're probably aware, right? Facebook kind of killed organic reach. Remember, just a few years ago, we were complaining that organic reach had dropped below 4 or 5%. Now, organic reach at 4 or 5%, my God, that would be incredible. I mean, if you get 4 or 5% reach, your social media marketing folks are like shaking your hand and cheering for you. Oof, no. Outbound referral traffic fell even further, even if you were one of the folks who specifically produced content for social, like BuzzFeed News and Slate and all these places. The people who targeted Facebook traffic, specifically with Facebook-friendly content, saw even their content fail to achieve any traction on the platform. And why was that? This is because Facebook said, stop sending people out. Keep people on Facebook, right? And they were very transparent about this, right? Mark Zuckerberg said numerous times, we are introducing a new algorithm update today so that nobody ever leaves Facebook. Well, okay, maybe he didn't say it exactly that way, but that's what he meant. These publishers who focus on clickbait, this is why you saw folks like BuzzFeed News, right, doing so many, and BuzzFeed itself doing so many layoffs in recent history. Vice, National Review, Atlantic, all these folks. Instagram, which has been one of the sort of rising stars of the social media world, has maintained some level of organic reach and always prevented outlinking, right? Except for the link in profile, click the profile and you go to the link that way. But the referral traffic is still very, very small as a percentage. Twitter and LinkedIn changed their algorithmic policies around this. So basically, the Twitter algorithm, I don't know if you've observed this as much in Germany, but it's certainly been felt very strongly in the United States, which is basically that Twitter and LinkedIn as well have this algorithmic system whereby if you post a tweet that contains a URL, it has to do better in engagement than a tweet that does not contain a URL to be seen by the same number of people. So contains a URL won't go as far on the same amount of engagement as does not contain a URL. Because Twitter, like all the rest of the platforms, wants you to stay on Twitter. And so does LinkedIn. This is why you see so many of the LinkedIn updates that have some sort of text and visual content, and then the first comment contains the URL link, because they're trying to game the system, right? A little silly, but Reddit, same story, right? Reddit has done a ton of things in a bunch of their subreddits and on their community to keep people on Reddit rather than going to other websites. And YouTube, it's so cruel. So YouTube basically does this thing now where they cut off the description wherever you put the URL. So let's say you have 400 characters and then a URL. They will cut off the URL, or they'll cut off the description down here at 400 characters. Or if you're like Marvel for Captain America here, they'll cut it off after just 110. It's just infuriating. It's such a dick move. It seems so insulting to just say, oh, wherever you're going to put the link, that's where we'll make sure no one can see it. We have a new policy. So I worked with a clickstream data provider, and you might have seen some blog posts that I put out about this or some other presentations I've given with this data from someone called JumpShot. They collect clickstream data both in the United States, but also the EU and the UK, which the UK is still part of the EU. I don't know. There's a lot of naked people in something called the House of Commons right now with like words on their chest. It's not like the US's politics make any sense, but I think, I know historically it's been considered a bad idea, but I think we should revisit the concept of having Germany take care of politics around the world. Look, it just seems like you know what you're doing here compared to, well, anyway. So Here are the top refers. This is basically, we looked at the top, I think it was 5,000 websites, no, sorry, 50,000 websites, and we looked at the percentage of referring traffic that came from each source, right, from each of a bunch of sources, and these are the top ones. So essentially, Google is the largest traffic sender by far. Interestingly, you might have seen charts over the past few years from people like Parsley and Shareaholic, companies that essentially help with publishers' traffic, news publishers specifically, and monitoring their traffic. And they showed essentially that Facebook used to be the #1 refer of traffic, and then became Google in 2017 because Facebook stopped sending as much traffic out. The jump shot data suggests that is true for a very, very tiny slice of the web. In fact, for most of the web, Google has always been the largest traffic sender by 10x. But the worst news is Google itself has started for the first time ever sending less organic traffic. This started in 2017. At the end of 2017 was the first time that JumpShot ever observed Google as a whole sending less organic traffic than it had previously in a given quarter. So quarter over quarter, right? Because Google's traffic fluctuates seasonally just like everyone else. So that is because, right, Google is solving more and more queries without clicks. When I search for best movies on Amazon Prime, Google is doing what? They basically just scrape these top results from the New York Times or whoever else is ranking in there, and then they build this box. They don't have editors, right? It's not a bunch of people who are working at Google who are like, oh, I think Moonlight was really good, but Big Sick just took my heart, and so I'm going to put it number. No, they scrape it from the top results that we built, right? This is work that we did as content creators and marketers. And then they just say, thank you. Oh, and look, you let me crawl your site for free. I really appreciate that. I'm just going to take all that traffic from you now. That's mine. And I think this happens, right? I'm not sure exactly whether this is what Google says literally, but you can tweet it to them. Photo, good? Yeah, all right. I did this specifically for the EU, so this is all EU countries combined right here. This is October 2018, so about 6 months ago. For the EU, if I search for Lego Star Wars figurine, paid is about 6.4% of all clicks on average. Right? This is across many billions of queries that happened that month. And organic, 63.6%. No-click searches, 30%. That's desktop. So this is not terrible, right? Organic still about 10 times as large as paid, and no-click searches, 30%. That's high, but not unreasonably high. But as we all know, desktop is less than half of Google's total search volume. Most of it now is happening on mobile. And if I do that search again, paid 8.8%, and then let's just scroll. Oh my God, an organic result. Yeah. Whoa. This is again for the EU. 36% organic, 8.8% paid, 54% no-click searches. Google is basically taking more than half of all searches that happen on a mobile device and answering the query before you ever have to click anything. When they said load speed is a major issue, I think they meant for them. Like we're going to load your web page in our web page so that no one has to click, and it doesn't matter how fast your page loads. So here's the scary part. 2016, this is the EU plus the UK for however long that's part. And here's 2018, and that is a 30% drop in organic and a 20% increase in no-click searches and a doubling of paid click-through rate. So it is no-click. Organic is still huge. Don't get me wrong. SEO has not gone away. Organic, even on mobile, is still much larger than paid. But no-click searches, Google solving the query for you, is even bigger. Here's, so I've taken the US and then Germany is the second one from the left there. And look, you can see that essentially this is desktop, right? So in Germany specifically, no-click searches are slightly lower than the EU average, and organic are slightly higher. But on mobile, there you go. Germany's click-through rates are still higher than the US's, but they are falling. And I think the US is probably the picture of what Google is going to do in the EU. So you can expect that the numbers will fall even further, probably in mobile and desktop both. There you go, yeah. Zero-click searches up about 30% in 2 years. How much longer can that go on? And is that accelerating? Because it looks like it's accelerating, especially in mobile the last year or so. So this is kind of this worldwide phenomenon happening everywhere, Google cannibalizing clicks that it once sent out. And it happens all over, right? In Google Maps and local, right? Clicks on a local result no longer go to that website. They go to Google Maps' sort of aggregation of the data. Jobs, where Google has taken a bunch of this, film and television, sports, hotels, flights. Anytime I present on this, someone sends a tweet like this, which is fine. This is a reasonable tweet, right? This solves for the user, doesn't it? This helps searchers. Short term, I agree with Marcus. Short term, yes, this solves a lot of user problems. I think even when I search on mobile and I see, Google's answer box, I'm like, ooh, it's frustrating that the publisher doesn't get the traffic, but it is highly convenient for me, the searcher. But long term, I worry about this, because I think what happens when this is the results that you see, right? I search for the best vacuum, and I basically get the full list. I don't have to click on TechRadar or Consumer Reports. Consumer Reports, by the way, if I click that link, they will ask me to sign up, right? They'll make me pay a subscription fee, because that's how Consumer Reports does their business. That's how they can afford to order 50 different vacuum cleaners and test them all in these lab-like settings and give good results. And they will not be able to do that. Once Google owns all this traffic, there is no incentive for publishers left. I don't know where that inflection point comes, but it can't be that far away, right? I think for some industries, for some people, it is already here, and that is super tough. So let's turn now to an upcoming form of marketing, something that's supposed to save the world of marketing, of web marketing, right? It's influencer marketing. Look how crazy hot it is. So this is influencer marketing in blue, and then I've got search engine marketing, content marketing, email marketing, social media marketing. This is the breakout that influencer marketing has had in interest over the last couple of years. Crazy. And look where it's popular. Japan, Sweden, Spain, and Germany, number 4. Super popular in Germany. I have some theories about this, but I'll let that go. So supposedly, right, influencer marketing is on track to be a $10 billion a year marketing spend industry by next year. And I think that a lot of this comes down to the fact that marketers feel like, since they, especially less technically savvy marketers, feel like influencer marketing is something they truly get. Yesterday, I sent a tweet about the New York Times, which in the last 10 years, I think, has published 30 articles that talk about search engine optimization, the industry of SEO. The New York Times, by the way, hilariously, still does S.E.O. which no one in SEO has done since, I think, 1997. Right? Like Danny Sullivan and a couple other people got together in 1997. They're like, we'll take the dots out, right? Okay, let's take the dots out. We don't need the dots. And the New York Times, 20 years later, has no idea that this happened. But so the New York Times has written about SEO 30 times. They've written about influencer marketing more times in 2018 than they have ever written about search engine optimization, because I think it's a more accessible field for a lot of people. They get it. They're like, yes, look, young, attractive person with no clothes on Instagram, selling me things. I get it. I understand. You know, oh, I have to make technical changes to my website to rank higher in Google? What are you talking about? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. But a lot of this stuff, a lot of the influencer marketing stuff is being outed now as fake, as not as credible, and not nearly as engaging as it was once thought to be. No surprise, just like the SEO industry, the early days of influencer marketing are rife with black hat manipulation and tactics like it. So here's this everyday man account, which was interviewed. He was interviewed, I think, by The Drum, and was asked about the campaigns that he did. A very popular influencer, and said, less than 50% of the marketers that he works with ever want to know what's happened. They don't even ask him for the numbers of impressions which Instagram provides. Why not? I think they are not actually that interested in the metrics. I think that they're interested in the representation. It's a lot like the classic ad industry where you spend a lot of money, you get a lot of eyeballs, and you hope it has an impact, and measurability is secondary. You know, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, so the company that I'm at now, that I founded, we built a little tool for analyzing fake followers. This is just on Twitter, but you know, and when we look, a lot of these accounts have high numbers, 34% of followers that are either, you know, fake or non-engaged, non-active at all on the platform. So of course, when we built this tool, you can guess what happened, right? Everybody, they run their own account through it. But the second thing everyone does with this tool is Donald Trump. Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Exactly, Donald Trump. Perfect. So of course we ran Donald Trump, and yes, it turns out that Donald Trump has a shocking number of fake followers. Just incredible. Now, to be fair, I think a lot of these are probably people who heard that Donald Trump was on Twitter, had no intention of ever using Twitter, but signed up for it and followed him, and then were like, meh, I'm never going back to this again. And so there's a huge number of people who've just never logged in there. But yeah. So one of the additional problems I see is, you know, if we go back in time, like if we were at this conference in 2012, and we were talking about influencer marketing, we would describe it as go find all the sources of influence that impact my audience and do marketing of all kinds in those places. This is a great idea. Makes tons of sense. But what happened in what? Why is that influencer marketing now? That's so weird. That's so limiting. It's very strange. Not every brand wants to be associated with that, I don't think. Strange. So there's a lot of challenges, right? There's all these sources of influence, and yet influencer marketing is only done on those two. I don't get it. And there is a growing backlash to it. I think you can see a bunch of laws, including the new one in the UK, which I actually thought was quite sensible. There are some new regulations from the FTC in the United States. There are new regulations here in the EU. There are even regulations emerging in China, where influencer marketing is absolutely massive as well. Supposedly, somewhere on the order of $8 billion already spent on influencer marketing in China. So, influencer marketing in a tough spot as well. Let's talk about web ads. I think that paid, as we pointed out in the section on Google's diminishing traffic, is still a place where there's a lot of opportunity for traffic anyway. But there's also this problem where dollars that come from venture capital, from growth equity, from private equity, from hedge funds, essentially flood the market of advertising and make it such that it's not very profitable. What I mean is, these dollars that are being put in by these funds, including, Moz was one of these. Moz, I think we raised $29 million in total, right? And a lot of that was certainly spent on paid marketing, probably on the order of $5 or $6 million of those dollars. Not all of it positive ROI, right? And so those investment dollars are seeking growth. they want to show growing numbers, right? If you look at the IPO for something like Lyft or the upcoming one for Slack or Pinterest, growth is the number that investors care about. And as a result, these dollars are not seeking out profitable growth or a positive ROI, just new users, more new users. That is the goal. And so that takes ad bids in a ton of these sectors way, way above what's actually profitable. And for those of us who have profitability as a metric, this is a real challenge because we are competing against people who don't have it, who don't care if they are making a positive return. They only care if they are adding new users. And then I think just like in influencer marketing, there are marketers who are still unaccountable to metrics, right? Or unaccountable to metrics beyond raw growth. And this is true in display, it's true in search, it's true in social, it's true in retargeting and remarketing. These ad costs go up, and meanwhile, the return on investment goes down. That makes it really tough for marketers like us to compete in all these sectors. So what do we do? This classic SEO and content playbook has sort of been torn out from under us. How can we react? What can we do better? Well, I think there are marketers, probably many of you in this room, who are reacting intelligently to this already, who are making changes. And what I want to try and do is describe what that looks like. Like what are the changes to the SEO and content playbook that we have to make in order to have success? So these are our challenges, right? And we're going to take them on one by one. So 2019, I think we should refocus a ton of our attention and energy back on our website and email lists. And that is because when you own and control the platform and you use all of these other places as traffic drivers, you have control and over how much you can reach your audience. And while it is absolutely true that there are millions, hundreds of millions of people participating on platforms like Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and Pinterest and YouTube and all these other places, I don't think it's worth very much to have a subscriber in those places or a fan in those places compared to an email or a web visitor. I think those are still hugely much, much more valuable. So I found this awesome picture on Reddit's Old School Cool. These are two brothers here in Germany, in Berlin, who were separated by the Berlin Wall, and in 1963, they got to celebrate Christmas together due to a border pass agreement, which I didn't even know that this was a thing. By the way, fun fact, my father-in-law, who lived here just south of Munich, he passed away about a year and a half ago, but he was what's the right word? A person who would interrogate people for the US government during the Cold War. So he told stories of basically going to the Berlin Wall and then like, oh, you know, we put a guy in a trunk and we took him across the wall and then we took him out and we interrogated him. And he wasn't very happy about it. I don't know why. But these two brothers, I think, perfectly represent to me your website and your email list. Old school cool. Old school cool. That's what I want. That's what I think all of us should want. That's what we should go back to. It's a little retro, but it's awesome. Because in my opinion, 10 new emails is worth more than 10,000 new followers. I would rather have those email addresses because with an email, I can do so much. And with a follower, I can do so little, and it is not controlled by me. I don't get to determine whether I can reach that person, right? Same with website visitors. 100 website visitors is worth probably 10,000 new followers. I will take that. 100 true fans, I would rather have those true fans with passion and interest in what we are doing versus thousands of visits or thousands of people following me. And I think that you can apply this same mentality to every one of the of the various platforms. So in search, right, in SEO, I think for a long time we have been centered around high volume search terms, right? Or volume search terms, just volume as a metric, volume as the metric by which we judge things. We look at volume, maybe we look at the PPC cost, right? And we say those are the things that matter. High PPC cost, that means somebody must be getting conversions. Does it? Maybe it just means someone with venture capital is getting signups. Just saying, right? But I would rather have my competitors chasing high volume terms, and I go after high click-through rate terms. Because this is something Google is not competing on yet, right? Now, so I'm showing Moz's Keyword Explorer in here, but I think Ahrefs keyword research tool also offers this organic click-through rate estimator, and I think SEMrush either does or will soon. So you can use tools like this to basically estimate what do we think the actual click-through rate is going to be here. Speaking of Ahrefs, this great chart that they did research with JumpShot, the same company that provided the click-through rate data that I was showing earlier, showed that, look at this, 38% of all searches in Google still get less than 50 searches per month. And those are the ones where Google is least likely to compete with us. Those are the ones where we have the most opportunity remaining. In the past, we went after long-tail keywords because, well, for a variety of reasons, right? Because competition was lower, maybe because intent was higher. Now, there's another reason to go after them, and that is Google's probably not competing with you, or not as hard. All right, second, we're going to try and build marketing flywheels. So rather than jam a bunch of tactics that are going to bring us traffic together, we're going to try and build a flywheel that sends us increasing inertia over time. So this is right a flywheel, this classic machine from the industrial age where it was used to store energy. And the thing about a flywheel is it's really, really hard to get that first revolution going, right? It takes an incredible amount of energy to get this wheel turning. But once it does, it stores energy wonderfully, it runs on inertia, and each successive revolution is easier than the last. So I'll show you a classic one, right? The classic SEO and content one that we've been talking about, where you do keyword research and you publish content and you push it to your subscribers and you promote on social and earn links and grow social and you grow your domain authority and your ranking ability and earn search referrals, right? And this sort of classic flywheel, the first few times you do this, you're probably going to hit a bunch of friction here because you just don't have people to reach and you're not earning links. But then you get this flywheel going a few times and boom, it gets easier and easier and easier, and this generates a lot of value. But this is not the only model. I think this is one a lot of us are familiar with, but you can do this with PR and ads, right? So you identify some sources of customer influence, you craft stories to draw coverage from that, you pitch some media, right? You earn press coverage, amplify and promote, run ads targeting those cookied visitors who came to your site through those, you grow your social following, and slowly you convert the fans and followers, and you refine your ad process and your conversion rate optimization testing, and you get this PR and ads flywheel, which worked great for people like Dollar Shave Club, right? Consumer goods play. Works well. We're at an event, right? Events and sponsorship. This works wonderfully. You identify events where your customers are going. You sponsor and you pitch and try and present and get on stage and you host booths and dinner parties, right? And you capture visitor info, you reach out with email, you cookie the site visits and the email opens, then you run hyper-personalized ads where and when you can, and you improve your sales process, your conversion rate optimization testing, and then you find new connections with your customers and affinities and figure out different events that you can keep repeating this model at. And I'm sure a lot of folks who are sponsoring SMX, right, have done exactly this, and they've built this flywheel around this process. So this can be a wonderful thing, right? It's hard at first, but it gets easier and more profitable with scale, right? You're learning, you're iterating, and you're creating value with each successive revolution. What we want are flywheels that don't just bring us traffic from these sources, they actually grow branded demand, right? I don't want people searching German sport. I mean, I do. I want people searching German sports car to come to my website. But I'd much rather build demand for my branded term, for BMW sports car. That is vastly superior, and that is exactly what a great flywheel does. It builds branded demand over time. Right? Same story here. I'm Crowd Cow, which is a startup in Seattle that sells beef online. And you can see them starting out back in 2015, and slowly but surely they actually eclipse, because their flywheel builds brand affinity such that they now get more search traffic for their branded term than for all the search phrases, the non-branded search phrases that send them high quality traffic. Awesome. That's what I want. All right. We got to go market where our audience is already paying attention. Let's talk about that. So, okay, anytime I hear this, I cringe. I hear a marketer say, our audience is on Instagram and Facebook. Who isn't? What are you talking about? Of course your audience, that's just saying you have an audience. It doesn't mean anything. So next up is I see a lot of marketers say, okay, my audience is influenced by, so they search for food bloggers, right? Oh, okay, my audience is influenced by food bloggers. Most followed food bloggers. That's not what you care about. That's not the right way to think about this. This is backwards thinking. You don't actually want the most followed person who describes themselves in a certain way. What you want are the people or accounts or sources of influence that are most followed by your target audience. And those are two very different things, right? So instead of, here's the most followed, right? Jamie Oliver has 6.2 million followers. Fine, great, he's a well-followed food blogger. But if your product is trying to reach food bloggers, maybe you have a super cool camera that does the overhead video thing for making recipes at home. Food bloggers are your audience. That's who you want to sell to. Well, there you go. 22% of food bloggers follow X. That is what I'm actually trying to get at. Now, that is hard information to get, frustrating, but surveys and interviews are a really good place to start. You can talk to your audience and find out from them, hey, what do you do? What do you pay attention to? Who influences you and how? And the nice part is you only have to do a few dozen of these before patterns start emerging. Your targets should not be just Instagram and YouTube. It should be all of these. And by the way, if your competitors are not going after them, that probably means there is more opportunity, higher return on investment, lower cost of customer acquisition for you, which is awesome. All right, so social. When we're trying to grow social engagement and we're trying to take advantage of these networks, but still make sure that our website and our email lists are at the center of this, that is a tough challenge, right? That is a tough pull and push. But let's talk about how this works, right? Let's talk about how social reach works. So here's my Facebook page. This is my personal, this is my professional, like Rand Fishkin Facebook page, right? So here's a post I did in 2018. Had a great talk about startup funding and building company culture, and no one gives a crap because, I don't know, I thought it was a good post, but my followers did not like it. And what happens when you have a post that does not do well? Your next post does even worse because Facebook's algorithm says, Rand is boring, and he does not engage people on Facebook. Therefore, we do not want to show his posts to more people on Facebook. So, when I have a post that does well, that reaches a high percentage of my, relatively high percentage of my fans, right, my friends on Facebook, then Facebook learns that I have high engagement, and therefore they will show my next post to more people, right? So now I am training the algorithm that, Rand is interesting, show Rand's posts to more of his audience in the future, or more of the broad audience in the future. And in this way, all of these networks, I'm using Facebook as an example here, but Twitter works this way, LinkedIn works this way, Instagram's algorithmic feed works this way, YouTube's coming up next videos works this way. They all work the same way. They're all machine learning based algorithms that try and reward high engagement streaks. That is what they're aiming for, right? Because they know that keeps people on their platforms. That keeps you addicted to your screen on their site. That's what they want. So these social algorithms, we understand what they're doing, right? They want to engage us. They want to addict us. They want to retain us. And we are smart marketers, so we know how to play this game. Here's how you play. You take a formula like this. I put up high engagement posts that are non-promotional in nature. I'm not getting a lot of value back. Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube, whatever, is getting most of the value. They are getting the engagement. All I'm getting is sort of brand awareness, right? I'm pushing my name or my brand name out there. But this post does well for these platforms. It engages the audience. And I do it again. And I build up a streak. I probably do it 3 or 4 or 5 times. And then, when my algorithmic reputation for engagement is high, I capitalize. I promote something. I promote something with a link, knowing that this will hurt my algorithmic streak, but it's okay because I can take advantage by doing it again next time and building back up again and again. This is awesome because I earn brand exposure and potential new followers with these, right, with the high engagement non-promotional ones. And then I capitalize on my algorithmic reputation for engagement and earn direct traffic and the value that I want from these platforms with these. And this system works sort of across the board on all of these different various platforms. This is a way to take advantage of the fact that they have these requirements and we have our own requirements, which is getting the direct traffic. All right. Penultimately sounds so good. This is the problem. It sounds like it's going to be even more awesome than ultimately. Was ist penultimate auf Deutsch? Haben Sie eine? No? Penultimate? Like the thing that is not quite the ultimate thing. It's the second to ultimate, second best.
You, but let me have a try.
Okay, yeah. We can Google penultimate auf Deutsch and see if there's there's probably a long compound word with someone's last name in it that means. All right. So penultimately, we'll talk about broadening content. So our successful content, right? Successful content does something that is different from just converting people. And it's different from just targeting our customers. And I hear this all the time from marketers, right? Like, we're going to create content to target our customers. No, there's what your customers care about, and there's what influential publications and people who your customers listen to care about, and that is what you want. That is where you find value. That is where you find stuff that does really, really well. For example, right, we have this strategy at SparkToro that we were like, well, blog posts do okay, but interactive tools, those get a ton of attention and awareness. Let's invest in that. And it turns out in the content world, no surprise, the harder it is to create something, the easier it is to be successful with it. So, right? I think that if we're going to go create things, we want stuff on this side more than on this side, or at least in addition to. And when we're doing that outreach to amplify and promote it, the spray and pray approach, I have seen that fail again and again and again. What I've seen be successful in outreach is smaller quantities of very human, targeted, story-driven and or values-driven outreach. That seems to work really well. And ultimately, let's talk about using ads. So, the challenge that we have is there's all these advertisers playing in these spaces and making it really hard for us to have ROI. So, I search, or I'm scrolling through my Instagram feed and I see Green Chef, and I can get $40 off. I don't even know who Green Chef is. I don't know whether $40 off is a good deal. Does it cost a lot of money? Is this like 5% savings? Is it 20%? I have no idea. When I search for prepared meal delivery, I only recognize one of these. Who do I recognize? Caviar. That's the only one I actually recognize. No surprise, they're up first. So that's probably the one I'm going to click. And they're probably paying the lowest because people already know about them. If you're not yet known and trusted, ROI sucks, right? That's why all these companies need all this capital. So I stole this graphic from WordStream. I apologize, it's a little convoluted, but I think it does a good job of explaining how this works. So if you are known and loved, and you are advertiser one, let's say this is the most visible advertiser on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or it's the top ranking one in Google's paid search results, you are probably actually paying the lowest click-through cost per click, and you probably have the highest visibility. Versus you're new to a market, no one knows who you are, you're probably down here paying the highest cost per click. So if you want to have success with digital advertising, you earn brand exposure with organic, with content, with brand, right? Brand advertising, and then you try and get at least one organic visit or a social engagement so that you know people know who you are, and then you advertise to the people who already know you and like you. This is how you get low cost per click, high ROI advertising, even in a hyper-competitive world with tons of growth equity dollars in it. So, I don't know if we've solved this entire problem. I know that these are pernicious trends that are getting harder and harder, but I look forward to your feedback, and thank you very much for having me. Take care.